Hey there, you amazing listener, and a super warm welcome to this in-depth exploration right here on The Deep Dive.
Hello, everyone. Great to be diving in.
Before we get started on today's fascinating topic, could you do us a quick favor?
Yeah, if you're enjoying what you hear and want more valuable English learning content,
Please hit that subscribe button down below for the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate your support.
absolutely. Subscribing means you won't miss out on any of the tips and tricks we uncover to help you master natural English.
All right, so let's dive into what we've got in store for you today.
Okay?
We're tackling a challenge that I know so many English language learners grapple with,
Mm-hmm.
understanding and speaking fast, natural English, the kind native speakers use without even thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. It's a crucial step on the path to fluency, definitely.
Right.
You can know all the grammar rules and have a huge vocabulary, but if you can't follow a fast-paced conversation or express yourself naturally,
Yeah.
well, it can be really frustrating.
Exactly. And to help us unlock some of the secrets to this, we've got a fantastic resource.
Okay, what are we looking at?
We've taken a deep dive into a full 1-hour English lesson video. It's from the J. Forrest English YouTube channel.
Ah, J. Forrest. Yeah, good stuff there.
It's titled 1-Hour Lesson, How to Speak Fast and Understand Natives Practice English Listening.
Okay, an hour-long lesson. That's quite a bit of time.
It is, and that's where we come in. Think of us as your shortcut.
Right. Our mission in this deep dive is to extract the most valuable insights from that lesson.
Specifically, focusing on how native speakers change their pronunciation in rapid speech.
The common expressions and idioms they use constantly.
And what all of it actually means. We want to give you, our listener, a real advantage.
Yeah, practical insights into understanding and speaking more naturally without you having to dedicate that full hour right now.
Consider this your cheat code, maybe,
Yeah,
to feeling more confident in English conversations.
I like that. We're going to be dissecting specific examples and exercises from the video
Paying close attention to how sounds morph and blend together.
and really getting to the bottom of those advanced phrases you hear all the time.
So, if you've ever felt like you're missing pieces of the conversation when English speakers are talking quickly,
Or if you've wondered why some phrases just don't make sense even when you understand all the individual words.
then this deep dive is absolutely for you.
Definitely. We're going to break it all down into digestible and, we hope, quite memorable chunks.
The video itself follows a really logical structure, starting with listening exercises focused on specific sentences.
Makes sense.
So we're going to follow that same flow to make sure everything is clear.
Good plan.
The very first listening exercise in the video presents the sentence, "We should have had a backup plan."
Right. We should have had a backup plan. And in the video, the speaker repeats this sentence 3 times at a natural conversational speed.
So the first key thing to notice here is the pronunciation, right?
Exactly. How does should have, those 2 separate words, sound when a native speaker says them quickly?
Well, as the video points out, should have very often combines to sound like shoulda.
Shoulda, yeah. That illing should almost disappears in rapid speech.
Right, you're much more likely to hear something closer to nilin rather than a clearly enunciated have.
It's a prime example of how those unstressed auxiliary verbs tend to get reduced in natural spoken English.
And this reduction doesn't usually stop there, does it?
No, definitely not. Shoulda then very smoothly blends with had to become shoulda had.
Shoulda had. It's all about efficiency in speech. The tongue moves in a continuous flow.
Exactly. So instead of hearing 3 distinct sounds, should, then have, then had, it all kind of melts together into one longer connected sound.
And then another really important aspect of fast speech comes into play.
The linking.
Yeah, the linking between back and up.
This linking is absolutely crucial for understanding why fast English can sound so different from, carefully spoken English.
How does that work here?
Well, the K sound at the end of back doesn't just abruptly stop. Instead, it naturally transfers over to the beginning of up, making it sound almost as if backup is one continuous word, even though grammatically they are separate.
So back and purge merge.
Right, into something closer to back,
Yeah.
with that transferred K creating a seamless join.
So that whole phrase, "we should have had a backup plan," when spoken at a natural, quicker pace, really ends up sounding more like, "we should have had a backup plan."
Exactly, we should have had a backup plan. It flows.
Now, while the pronunciation is interesting, understanding the meaning is just as vital. What exactly is a backup plan?
As the video clearly explains, a backup plan is simply an alternative plan.
Right. plan B.
It's the course of action you will take if your original plan, your first choice, happens to fail or doesn't work out. The video uses a really relatable example.
The conference presentation one.
Yeah, exactly. Preparing for a conference presentation.
Yes. Imagine you've spent hours, maybe even days, creating the perfect presentation. You've got it all saved on your laptop. That's your primary plan, plan A.
But what if something unexpected happens? What if your laptop suddenly decides to malfunction right before you're about to present?
Or it just won't connect to the projector. Nightmare scenario.
Totally. That's precisely where your backup plan becomes essential.
So in the video's example, the backup plan is saving the presentation on a USB drive, a memory stick.
Right. That way, if your laptop fails you at the crucial moment, you have a plan B all ready to go.
You can just plug in the USB and deliver your presentation without a hitch. Hopefully.
Hopefully. And that really captures the essence of what a backup plan is. It's that safety net, that alternative you can rely on when things don't go according to initial expectations.
The video has that line, my computer wouldn't connect, but thankfully I had my presentation on a USB. Thankfully I had a backup plan.
Yeah, it highlights the relief and preparedness that comes with having a plan B.
And this example perfectly illustrates why understanding these subtle pronunciation shifts is so incredibly important.
How so?
Well, if you're listening for each word to be clearly and distinctly pronounced, if you're expecting should, then have, then had.
You might completely miss the fluid shoulda had in fast, natural speech.
Exactly. It can sound like a completely different phrase if you're not attuned to these reductions and linkings.
Absolutely. And the concept of having a backup plan itself is incredibly useful, isn't it? It applies in so many different aspects of life.
Oh, totally. Beyond presentations, work projects, travel arrangements.
Even just organizing your day. It's always wise to have a contingency, just in case.
It's about being prepared for those unexpected challenges life throws our way.
Definitely. Okay, ready for the next one?
Okay, let's move on to the second listening exercise that the video presents. This time the sentence is, her comment really pissed me off.
Ooh, okay. Strong language. Her comment really pissed me off. Again, in the video, the speaker repeats this 3 times, natural pace.
And here, the pronunciation of the past simple verb pissed is worth paying attention to.
Yes. Pissed ends with "ed," the typical past simple ending. But how that "ed" sounds, it can be very subtle, right?
Almost silent sometimes, especially when it's followed by other words in connected speech.
Specifically, with words ending in an unvoiced consonant like the A's in piss, meaning your vocal cords don't vibrate.
On like a Z sound or something.
Exactly. The "ade" ending typically sounds like a soft T, so pissed on its own would be pissed.
Pissed. But then, when it's followed by me off...
As the video rightly points out, that soft T sound can become even less audible, sometimes almost disappearing entirely into the flow. You might barely hear a distinct sound at all.
So you're relying on context to know it's past tense.
Pretty much, yeah. In fast speech, the context, her comment really pissed me off.
Yeah.
The adverb, really, the flow, it all strongly suggests a completed action in the past.
Okay, makes sense. Now let's delve into the meaning of this.
Oh.
Quite strong expression, to piss someone off.
Yes, it's definitely informal. And the video makes sure to emphasize it means to make someone really angry.
Really angry. Not just a little annoyed.
No, it's stronger than annoyed.
Yeah.
It's a very strong way to describe irritation.
And it's really important for English learners to understand the social nuances here, right? The formality level.
Absolutely crucial. While native speakers use this quite commonly when complaining about someone or something.
To a friend, maybe, or family.
Right, someone they were close to.
Yeah.
But it would generally be considered quite impolite, even offensive in some situations, to say directly to someone, "You're really pissing me off."
Yeah, the video makes that distinction very clear. Complaining about Mark to your spouse, "Mark really pissed me off today," is one thing.
But saying, "Mark, you really pissed me off," directly to Mark, especially at work, probably not a good idea.
Definitely not. It could cause offense, depending on the relationship and the situation.
Precisely. Direction matters. Complaining about versus confronting with, and the formality, the relationship, all key factors.
The video also touches upon the structure, to be pissed off.
Yes, and the pronunciation of pissed is the same pest soft T. To be pissed off simply means to be really angry.
And the example given is quite relatable.
Which one was that?
I was so pissed off when I came home to a completely dirty house, even though my kids promised they'd clean up.
Ah, yes. That definitely paints a picture of being really angry.
So understanding this informal expression helps you grasp the intensity of emotion in casual conversations.
Absolutely. Recognizing informal language like this is vital for fluency, understanding others, and avoiding social missteps yourself.
Okay, good points. Let's move on. What's the third listening exercise?
Exercise 3 from the video. Take what she says with a grain of salt.
Ah, an idiom. Take what she says with a grain of salt.
Exactly. This is our first idiom in the lesson. Now, the pronunciation of the individual words here is generally quite clear, as the video points out.
So the challenge isn't the sounds.
No, it's usually understanding the meaning of the whole phrase to take something with a grain of salt.
It's a really common idiom, but yeah, maybe not intuitive if you haven't heard it.
The video explains it perfectly.
Mm.
It means you shouldn't believe absolutely everything someone tells you.
Because
there's a good chance it might not be completely true or accurate. There's a degree of skepticism involved.
Like, be a little cautious about it.
Precisely. The video mentions the historical roots, suggesting accepting something with a small amount of reservation, like making medicine more palatable with salt. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, that is interesting. And the example they use makes it clear.
The one about Gina promising to help move.
Yes. The friend is told Gina will definitely help move apartments, but based on past experience.
Gina isn't always reliable with promises.
So the advice, take what she says with a grain of salt, is a warning, right?
Exactly. A gentle but important warning. Don't rely too heavily on Gina's promise. She might not follow through.
It's like saying, don't take her word as gospel, or be skeptical.
Yeah, implies caution. Don't accept it at absolute face value without considering the source's reliability.
The video also briefly touches on a grammar point here.
It does. It points out that take at the beginning of the sentence is in the imperative form.
The base form of the verb, no subject.
Right. And the imperative is used for instructions, orders, or, like here, offering advice or a suggestion.
So, take what she says with a grain of salt is a recommendation.
Exactly.
So, understanding idioms like this is absolutely key then. You might get the words, but miss the whole meaning otherwise.
Precisely. Idioms add color, richness, cultural nuance. They're incredibly common in natural speech. Learning them is a big step towards fluency.
Okay, number 4. What's next?
The fourth listening exercise in the video brings us, it's high time we let her go.
It's high time we let her go. Okay, interesting.
This sentence has both a key pronunciation point typical of fast speech and also a couple of important expressions.
Let's start with the pronunciation. Let her go.
The video highlights a very common reduction with the pronoun her. Often that H sound at the beginning just disappears. It becomes silent.
Especially when it follows another word.
Yes. So the standard who'ser often becomes just rare in connected speech. And crucially, this reduced sound very often links smoothly to the word before it. So let and her blend together.
How does it sound then?
Let her can easily sound very much like letter. Let her. Almost identical to the word for something you write.
Wow, okay. Let her go.
Pretty much. Yeah. Let her go. Yeah. Another clear example of blending and changing sounds in fluid speech.
All right. Now, the expressions in the sentence. First, it's high time.
It's high time, a common idiomatic expression. It means something really should happen now.
Yeah.
And it strongly suggests it probably should have happened already. There's a sense of urgency or that something is overdue.
The video connects this to the listener's English learning, right? Playfully.
Yeah, it says something like, it's high time that you finally enrolled in the Finally Fluent Academy.
Huh. Okay, so it illustrates that feeling of something being overdue.
Exactly. And the video briefly explains the Academy is presented as a premium program focused on fluency through native speaker media and authentic content.
So immersive learning, picking up nuances.
That seems to be the idea presented. Now, the second part of the sentence. We let her go. What does to let someone go mean here?
This is a common euphemism, isn't it?
It is. The video clearly states to let someone go is a very common, often gentler way of saying to fire someone from their job.
To terminate their employment permanently.
Right. So the entire sentence, it's high time we let her go, strongly implies this person, likely an employee, should have been fired already, and now is definitely the time.
So understanding this one sentence involves recognizing the blended let her pronunciation.
And grasping the meanings of both it's high time and to let someone go.
It really shows how a single sentence can pack in multiple layers, pronunciation, idioms, phrasal verbs.
Absolutely, all contributing to the overall meaning.
Okay, moving right along. What's listening exercise 5?
Number 5 is, He looked a little frazzled.
He looked a little frazzled. Okay, this one seems focused on pronunciation again.
Primarily, yes. Very common aspects of spoken English. Let's start with a little.
How does that change?
Well, the video explains native speakers very often reduce the it sound in little, especially between vowels, like here. It often becomes a very soft id sound.
So like little, lettered zor.
Exactly, little. Or in even faster, more casual speech, that T might disappear altogether.
Making it sound like.
More like lil. And that initial sound often connects smoothly to the word following it.
So a little can sound quite different from the careful pronunciation. Maybe a little or a lil.
Definitely a noticeable difference. And then we have the word frazzled.
Frazzled. Used here as an adjective describing how he looked.
Right. Forms from the past, simple verb frazzle with the ed ending. Now, similar to pissed, that ed ending on frazzled follows an unvoiced sound. Actually, wait, Z and frazzle is voiced, my mistake. But the ed ending after heel, here, still often sounds like a soft D.
Okay, so frazzled is often pronounced frazzled with a soft A.
Yes, fraz, often a very soft or sometimes barely audible D at the end.
So, the whole sentence, he looked a little frazzled, spoken quickly, could sound like he looked a little frazzled, or he looked a little frazzled.
Precisely. Now, pronunciation aside, what does it mean to look or be frazzled?
The video describes it as looking very tired.
But also more than just tired, right?
Yeah, it implies being worried, anxious, or overwhelmed too, often with visible physical signs.
Right. Think about someone whose normally neat hair is messy, maybe dark circles under their eyes, clothes maybe not as neat.
It's a combination of looking physically worn out and emotionally stressed or overwhelmed.
Exactly. The video gives that visual. If the speaker's hair is usually styled, but now it's all over the place, makeup smudged, shirt creased, you might say they look frazzled.
And their expression would probably match tired, worried, stressed.
So if you saw a colleague looking frazzled, you might ask if they're okay, recognizing those signs.
It allows you to perceive those subtle cues about someone's state.
Absolutely. Frazzled is more descriptive than just tired or stressed. It conveys being worn out and overwhelmed.
Okay. Now, before we get to the next exercise, the video talks about imitation, right?
Yes, a really important section on the purpose and value of imitation exercises in language learning.
Because just listening isn't always enough.
Exactly. The video emphasizes that passive listening, while helpful, often isn't sufficient on its own. To truly improve your speaking, you need to actively engage.
By repeating the sentences and phrases out loud.
And the key is making a conscious effort to match the speaker's pronunciation as closely as possible.
Paying attention not just to individual sounds,
but also the overall rhythm, the intonation patterns, how the voice rises and falls.
And the way sounds blend in connected speech.
It's about actively training both your ear to recognize those phonetic shifts and your mouth muscles to reproduce them accurately.
Consistent practice with imitation can really make a significant difference over time.
Absolutely. It helps make your own English pronunciation sound more natural and fluent.
Okay, good reminder. Let's jump back into the listening exercises. Number 6.
Exercise 6. The sentence is, my mom nitpicks like crazy.
My mom nitpicks like crazy.
Here, the video points out the pronunciation is pretty clear. No major reductions or challenging links.
So the focus shifts to vocabulary.
Yes, specifically the verb to nitpick and the expression like crazy.
Okay, what does to nitpick mean?
The video explains it clearly. To find faults, criticisms, or errors in very small, often unimportant details.
Things that don't really matter in the big picture.
Exactly. Focusing on minor, insignificant flaws. The video gives that dinner example.
Right, where the food and service are great, but the person complains about the plate color or the wall art.
Yeah, that friend, Lindsay, is described as a nitpicker, which is just the noun form.
So a nitpicker is someone who habitually finds fault with minor things. Overly critical of small stuff.
Precisely. Now, the expression that follows, like crazy, what does that mean here?
In this context, like crazy is an intensifier, right? It basically means a lot or very much.
Yes, it emphasizes the degree of the nitpicking.
So my mom nitpicks like crazy means my mom nitpicks a lot, or very frequently about many small things.
Exactly. The video gives another common example. I worked like crazy all weekend.
Meaning, I worked a lot, or very hard.
So understanding to nitpick helps describe a common personality trait, and like crazy is a useful intensifier to emphasize degree.
Both valuable additions for describing behaviors and intensity more vividly.
Agreed. Ready for number 7?
Let's do it.
Exercise 7. It's okay to be picky sometimes.
It's okay to be picky sometimes. Interesting because it contrasts with nitpick.
Exactly. The video draws that contrast.
Yeah.
Both use pick, but the meanings are different.
Starts with it's, the contraction of it is.
Followed by the unstressed infinitive to be, which often gets reduced in speech to true by or even to by. Very short vowel.
And then picky, to be picky means?
It describes someone who has very strong, often specific preferences about what they like and don't like.
The video uses the example of picky eaters common with kids.
Right. Kids who have a limited range of foods they like and won't try new things easily.
But adults can be picky too, not just about food.
Definitely. And the video makes an important point. It's actually okay, sometimes even advisable, to be picky sometimes.
Especially with big life decisions.
Yes, like choosing a job, a house, or even a spouse. In those major situations, having strong preferences and not just settling.
Can be perfectly acceptable, even sensible.
And this is where the distinction between picky and nitpicky is crucial.
So picky is about preferences, knowing what you like.
While nitpicking is about being overly critical of minor things that don't really matter overall.
So it's okay to be picky sometimes, gives a more nuanced view. It's acceptable, even wise, to have strong preferences in certain contexts.
Exactly. It's about discerning between healthy standards and just being overly critical of trivial details.
Got it. Let's move on to exercise 8.
Number 8, the sentence is, I'm beat. Let's call it a day.
Two common expressions here. Short sentence, but packs a punch.
It does. Let's start with I'm beat.
I'm is I am, of course, and beat here.
It's an informal way of saying to be very tired or completely exhausted, stronger than just tired.
Right, emphasizes a deeper level of fatigue. I'm beat.
Exactly. Now, the second part, let's call it a day.
The pronunciation for the video points out the linking.
Yeah, let's call it, the sounds often blend to sound almost like kalat. Kalat, the S links to the K.
Okay, kalat. And the meaning of the idiom to call it a day.
Very common. It means to stop working on something for the rest of the day.
Why would you stop?
Either because you feel enough work has been done, or simply because everyone involved is too tired to continue effectively.
The video gives that example of stopping work at 3 p.m. because everyone's exhausted after working hard since morning.
Right. Someone might say, okay, everyone's looking really tired, let's just call it a day.
And it connects back to like crazy too.
Yeah, we've all been working like crazy, let's call it a day.
So to be beat is a useful alternative for very tired. And, let's call it a day, is a super common way to signal stopping work or an activity.
Both highly practical, you'll hear them constantly in everyday spoken English.
All right, number 9.
Exercise 9 is,
you shouldn't be so nosy.
You shouldn't be so nosy. Okay, shouldn't is should not.
Standard contraction. And the adjective nosy.
To be nosy means getting too interested in other people's private stuff, right?
Exactly. Showing excessive interest in others' private affairs or secrets, especially when it's none of your business. Prying.
The video uses the example of looking at your partner's phone without permission.
Yes. Wanting to secretly read their texts or check their calls. That's considered nosy.
Because everyone has a right to privacy.
Fundamentally, yes. Trying to access private info without consent is generally seen as nosy behavior, and it's usually frowned upon socially.
So, you shouldn't be so nosy is a polite but firm way to tell someone to mind their own business.
Pretty much. Stop interfering.
Understanding nosy helps recognize it in others and also avoid doing it yourself.
Exactly. It's about respecting personal boundaries.
Okay, and exercise 10 builds on this.
It does. Number 10 is, being nosy is one of my pet peeves.
Being nosy is one of my pet peeves. Interesting structure here. Yeah, it uses a gerund, the ing form of a verb used as a noun, being nosy, as the subject.
Which is a common way to make general statements about activities or behaviors.
Right. Being nosy refers to the general act or tendency, and it introduces the idiom pet peeve.
What's a pet peeve?
It's something very specific that particularly annoys you, something you find especially irritating.
More than just a mild irritation.
Yes, a pet peeve usually triggers a stronger negative reaction whenever you encounter it.
The video mentions the top 3 from a Google search.
It does. Loud chewing, bad manners, and clutter or messiness.
Huh. Very relatable. I think many people can identify with at least one of those.
Probably. And the video then prompts the listener to consider their own pet peeves.
Which is a good self-reflection exercise and helps expand vocabulary for annoyances.
Definitely. So understanding pet peeve lets you clearly describe those specific things that really bother you.
Okay, exercise 11.
Number 11, the party got a little out of hand.
The party got a little out of hand. We have a little again.
You often reduce to a little or a lil, and it introduces the idiom out of hand.
And the pronunciation of out of.
The video highlights how it often blends together to sound like Uda, a DJ. The teak links or softens into the tack.
Uda, hand. Okay. And the idiom to get or become out of hand.
It describes a situation that has become uncontrolled or exceeded normal limits, making it hard to manage.
So a party getting a little out of hand means it became too wild, noisy, chaotic.
Exactly. The video also gives the example of my shopping has gotten a little out of hand.
Meaning you've lost control of your spending, buying too much.
Right. So to get out of hand is useful for describing many situations that have escalated beyond manageable or appropriate levels.
It conveys that sense of things spiraling.
Often with negative consequences, yeah.
All right, number 12.
Exercise 12. His email really caught me off guard.
His email really caught me off guard. This has a common phrasal verb.
Yes, to catch someone off guard. And a pronunciation point with his email.
How does that link?
His ends with the Z sound, even though it's spelled with S. And email starts with a vowel. So it's naturally for that Z to link across.
Sounds like his email with Z.
Exactly. His email. Smooth connection. And the phrasal verb to catch someone off guard.
Means to surprise someone, right? Usually with unexpected information or news.
Correct. You weren't prepared for it. The video notes there are two possibilities here.
How so?
Well, maybe just receiving the email was a surprise. Or maybe the content of the email was unexpected.
Ah, okay. Either way, something wasn't anticipated.
Exactly. The overall meaning is clear. The email contains something surprising.
And the video notes this is often used in the passive voice.
Yes, very commonly. I was caught off guard by his email. Same meaning.
So understanding to catch someone off guard is helpful for talking about surprises or unexpected news.
Definitely. Both for describing your own experiences and understanding others.
Okay, number 13.
Exercise 13. Thanks for sticking up for me.
Thanks for sticking up for me. This sounds like a positive one.
It is a very positive and important phrasal verb. To stick up for someone. Pronunciation note. For often reduces to fur. Fur.
Unstressed prepositions often do that, and to stick up for someone means
to support or defend them, especially when they're being criticized or facing opposition. Showing loyalty, backing them up.
The video gives that nice example of students defending the creator in the comments.
Yes, and thanks for sticking up for me is a direct, sincere thank you for that support.
So it relates to solidarity and defending someone when challenged.
A valuable phrase for expressing gratitude for support or understanding when others thank you for it.
Good one. What's number 14?
Exercise 14. It's so hard sticking to this diet.
It's so hard sticking to this diet. Okay, deals with diet and sticking to.
Right. The video notes so is often elongated for emphasis here. So hard.
And diet can have different meanings.
Exactly. First, as used here, it's a noun for a specific eating plan, usually temporary, often for weight loss.
But diet can also mean just the food and drink someone normally consumes.
Yes, the general term, like I try to maintain a healthy diet in that broader sense.
And to go on a diet means starting a specific plan. Now, the phrasal verb to stick to something.
It means to continue doing that thing or following that plan, even when it's difficult.
So it's so hard sticking to this diet expresses the difficulty of maintaining the eating plan.
Precisely. This exercise clarifies the different uses of diet and gives us the useful phrasal verb to stick to something for talking about commitment despite challenges.
Perseverance, basically.
Exactly. Maintaining commitment when things get tough.
Okay, number 15.
Exercise 15 asks the question, do you think you're going to stick it out?
Do you think you're going to stick it out? Lots of informal reductions here.
Several, yeah. You often becomes ya, Jay.
You're going to for you were going to. Very common.
And stick it out, the key between vowels often becomes a soft D and the sounds link smoothly.
And the meaning of to stick it out.
It means to continue doing something until the very end, until it's finished, especially when it's difficult or unpleasant.
How does it relate to sticking to something?
Similar, but the video notes stick it out often carries a stronger emphasis on enduring until completion, finishing the tough thing.
So asking, do you think you're going to stick it out about a diet means, will you complete the whole plan even though it's hard?
Exactly. Another useful phrasal verb about perseverance and seeing things through to the end.
Got it. Exercise 16.
Number 16 asks, You all set for the meeting tomorrow.
You all set for the meeting tomorrow. It sounds very natural, very spoken.
It's a great example of how spoken English sometimes drops auxiliary verbs.
Like the R is missing. Grammatically, it should be, are you all set?
Right, but you all set is very common in casual conversation. The video also mentions you all can be quick, or even y'all in the southern U.S.
And the rising intonation at the end signals it's a question.
Exactly. Now, the expression to be all set
Means to be completely ready or fully prepared for something.
very common way to ask if someone's ready to leave, ready to start, ready for whatever's next. You often hear just all set.
So it shows grammar flexibility in speech and gives a useful phrase for checking readiness.
A staple of casual, everyday conversation. Definitely.
Okay, number 17.
Exercise 17. This report's all over the map.
This report's all over the map. Reports is, report is.
Yep, contraction. And all over links, sounds. The key here is the idiom, to be all over the map.
What does that mean? It sounds disorganized.
Exactly. It describes something disorganized, confused, lacking clear focus or direction, no coherence.
The video gives the example of consultant recommendations being all over the map.
Meaning they were scattered, didn't follow a logical pattern, hard to understand or implement.
It's a vivid way to describe something lacking focus or organization.
A more colorful way to say scattered, inconsistent, or doesn't make sense as a whole.
Okay, number 18.
Exercise 18 is an instruction. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn.
Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Imperative again. Pronunciation of your.
Often reduced to year,
Okay.
KR fear.
Ooh.
And peeled for might sound like peeled fur.
And the idiom to keep your eyes peeled.
Means to watch very carefully, be on high alert for something specific, be vigilant.
The driving example is perfect. Follow directions, keep your eyes peeled for the turn so you don't miss it.
Exactly. Also used when reviewing documents for errors or waiting for someone. Anywhere careful observation is needed.
A useful idiom emphasizing careful observation.
Very concise way to tell someone to pay close attention.
All right, number 19.
Exercise 19 asks, can you just ballpark the cost for me?
Can you just ballpark the cost for me? Can you? Often sounds like.
Can ya? Can ya? Very common reduction. And it introduces the verb to ballpark something.
To ballpark, like estimate roughly.
Exactly. An informal verb meaning to provide a rough or approximate estimate comes from the idea of a baseball ballpark range.
But the video clarifies it's not about baseball here.
Right, nothing to do with the sport itself in this context, just means giving an approximate figure when a precise one isn't available or needed.
Can also be an adjective. A ballpark figure.
Yes, meaning a rough estimate. So, to ballpark is valuable for business and everyday chat when you need a general idea, not an exact number.
Essential when precise figures aren't known yet.
Or when a rough estimate is just fine.
Okay, number 20.
Exercise 20, the suggestion. Let's revisit this down the line.
Let's revisit this down the line. Let us. Revisit has stress on re.
Right. And the key phrase is the phrasal adverb down the line.
What does down the line mean?
It refers to some point in the future, but at an unspecified date. It's often used to politely postpone discussing something without setting a specific time.
The video gives that example about English skills maybe affecting your career down the line in the future.
Yes, it's a somewhat non-committal way to refer to the future.
Useful for acknowledging a topic but deferring it.
Precisely. Allows postponement without a firm commitment.
Okay, exercise 21. This is the tricky one, right?
Ah, yes, number 21. Have you edited it yet?
Have you edited it yet? The video admits this is extremely difficult to pronounce.
It does, even for native speakers. Because of the awkward combination of multiple T and D sounds in edited it.
It's that D at the end of edited right before the I of it.
Exactly. A very tricky phonetic transition that gets kind of muddy.
So the video suggests native speakers might actually avoid this phrasing.
Often, yes. They might opt for an alternative using the noun instead of the pronoun.
Like, have you edited the report yet? Or the document yet?
Exactly. Much easier to say clearly.
And the grammar here is present perfect question with yet.
Right. Asking about something expected to be completed. Negative. I haven't edited it yet. Affirmative often uses already. Yes, I've already edited it.
So this exercise is a good reminder that even native speakers struggle sometimes.
Absolutely. And it's okay for learners to find things challenging and even use alternative phrasing.
That's important. Don't get discouraged by awkward sound combinations.
Exactly. It's part of learning any language.
Okay, what's number 22?
Exercise 22. Does she have what it takes to move up?
Does she have what it takes to move up? Pronunciation blends here, too.
Some subtle ones, yeah. Does she can blend what it can sound like, what, dit, with a soft? And 2 important phrasal verbs.
To have what it takes and to move up. What's to have what it takes?
Really useful expression. Means to possess the necessary skills, qualities, characteristics needed for success in something.
The video connects this back to the listener learning English.
Thoughtfully, yes. Suggesting that with dedication and persistence, you absolutely have what it takes to become fluent.
That's encouraging. And to move up.
In a professional context, it means to advance to a more important, higher-level position. Get promoted.
And the video links improving English skills to career advancement, helping you move up.
Right. So this exercise offers 2 valuable phrasal verbs, some encouragement, and highlights the practical benefits of better English professionally.
Believing in yourself is key.
Absolutely. Crucial for success in language learning or any challenge.
Okay, number 23.
Exercise 23. I'm finally all caught up.
I'm finally all caught up. Using the phrasal verb to be caught up.
Yes. Pronunciation of caught up often involves a soft "i'd" sound for the T sound and linking. And to be caught up means
to have finished all your previous tasks or responsibilities. You're no longer behind schedule.
And the word all here emphasizes completely.
Exactly. I'm all caught up means completely, entirely caught up.
The video uses the email example. I'm finally all caught up on my emails, meaning you've dealt with all pending ones.
Right. It's a very satisfying phrase to use when you've cleared your backlog.
Definitely useful expression for indicating task completion.
And a great feeling when you can finally say it.
Yeah, true. Okay, number 24.
Exercise 24 asks, do you have a sec to bring them up to speed?
Do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? More pronunciation reductions.
Several, yeah. Do you have a often reduces them, reduces to links, bring them up to speed links too.
And sec is short for?
Second, meaning a very brief moment of time. Often used before asking for a small favor or starting a quick discussion. Okay. And the phrasal verb, to bring someone up to speed.
Means to share the latest news, information, or developments on a topic so they know what's been happening. Get them updated.
The video uses the example of returning from vacation and asking a colleague to bring you up to speed on a conference.
Very practical. A common request to get quickly informed.
So, a sec for asking for a moment and bring someone up to speed for getting updated. Both very practical.
Absolutely essential for effective communication and teamwork.
All right, the last one, number 25.
And finally, exercise 25, the very common social question. Are you going out tonight?
Are you going out tonight? Simple and common.
Very. Pronunciation note. The T in out is often silent, but might link with the T in tonight if there's no pause. Efane, or a dinner.
And to go out just means?
To leave home for social activity, dinner, movie, drinks, whatever.
And present continuous, are you going for plans in progress or near future? Past tense, went out.
Exactly. This last one just ensures learners are comfortable with this basic but crucial social question.
Good to cover the basics too. And that wraps up the exercises from the video.
It does. And it's worth repeating what the video creator said.
About some examples being hard even for natives.
Yeah, like edited it.
Yeah.
Genuinely challenging. So if listeners found some tricky, they're definitely not alone.
Absolutely. Language learning is a journey. Be patient with yourself.
Celebrate the progress.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's quickly recap the key takeaways.
Okay.
We looked at pronunciation changes in fast English linking sounds, reducing sounds like the T and little silent H in her. Understanding these is crucial for listening comprehension.
And we explored a lot of advanced expressions, idioms like take with a grain of salt or all over the map.
And practical phrasal verbs like let someone go, stick up for, bring up to speed.
And understanding these means grasping the unique meaning of the phrase, not just the individual words, and knowing how to use them right.
Our hope is that by digging into these examples, you, our listener, have a clearer idea of not just what they mean, but how they actually sound in natural conversation.
Which is absolutely crucial for improving both your listening and making your own speaking sound more natural and fluent.
Because becoming truly fluent is more than just grammar rules and vocab lists, right?
So much more. It's developing an ear for the rhythm, the flow, recognizing sound changes, understanding those cultural nuances embedded in everyday speech.
So we really encourage everyone listening to keep practicing actively. Pay attention to these nuances whenever you hear native speakers.
In movies, podcasts, real conversations, wherever. Every bit of focused listening and conscious imitation helps you progress.
Definitely. Keep at it.
And on that encouraging note, a big thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into natural English.
We sincerely hope you found the insights and explanations valuable for your own learning journey.
Absolutely. Keep up the fantastic work. Keep listening. Keep exploring the English language. Today, we're tackling something really fundamental, I think, for a lot of people listening. Effective strategies for adults learning English. It's a big one.
It really is. And we've gone pretty wide on the sources for this. We looked at, expert articles specifically on adult language learning, personal stories from polyglots, people who speak multiple languages, some solid research papers on language acquisition itself, and even trawled through community discussions online, places where learners share what actually works for them.
Right. And our mission here, really thinking about you, the learner listening in, is to sit through all of that and pull out the stuff that's actually practical, insightful and genuinely actionable, stuff you can use right away.
Exactly. We want to help you speed up your English journey, but importantly, without feeling totally buried or, overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of advice out there. There's so much.
So much noise sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right in. A theme that just popping up again and again across basically all the sources was this idea of active practice, actually using the language, especially speaking.
Yes, that came through loud and clear. The LearnLine article, for instance, really hammered home this concept of learning by doing. It's not just about absorbing facts about English.
Right. It's more than just knowing grammar rules.
Exactly. It's about integrating all these different cognitive skills, listening, thinking, formulating, producing sound, all to actually communicate. They use that Confucius quote, which I thought was quite profound in this context. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand.
That really lands, doesn't it? I do and I understand. It perfectly captures that need to move beyond just passive understanding. You can listen to podcasts or watch movies in English all day.
Which is helpful. Definitely helpful for input.
For sure, but it's that next step, actually producing the language yourself, speaking your own thoughts. That seems to be where the real understanding, the real fluency clicks in.
Precisely. And that LearnLite piece also made a great point about conversation being a two-way street. When you're practicing speaking, you're not just working on your output. You're inherently practicing active listening, too. You have to understand what the other person is saying to respond meaningfully.
That's a really good point. It's not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Effective communication demands that you're processing, interpreting, and understanding in real time. So the very act of engaging in conversation sharpens both skills simultaneously.
And this isn't just, theoretical academic stuff. We saw a really powerful example of this in practice. It came from Alomi, who runs the Speak Fluent German YouTube channel. Now, obviously, her focus there is German, but she shared her own journey learning English, and it was very illuminating.
Oh, interesting. So what was her experience?
Well, she talked about how she had done the traditional academic route, classes, grammar drills, the whole thing. And she felt she had a decent foundation. She knew a lot of English. But she was kind of paralyzed by this fear of making mistakes. It really held her back from actually speaking confidently.
Ah, yes, the classic confidence barrier. So many learners hit that wall. Did she say what helped her break through?
Yeah, it was a major life change, actually. She moved to Hong Kong. And suddenly, English wasn't just a subject in a classroom. It was, essential for daily survival, for connecting with people. That necessity became the catalyst.
Right. That real-world pressure can be incredibly motivating, even if it's terrifying at first. So she was basically forced to practice.
Pretty much. And out of that experience, she developed some really practical strategies. The first big one, immersion. She just switched everything in her life to English. Movies, TV shows, music, podcasts, even the language settings on her phone and computer. Total immersion.
Wow, that's commitment. And the thinking there is just constant exposure. Right, even if it's passive sometimes.
Exactly. It's like creating this bubble of English around yourself. And what's interesting is the idea of what you might call incidental learning. By just being constantly exposed, even if she didn't understand every single word, she was likely picking up vocabulary, sentence patterns, the rhythm, the intonation, almost subconsciously. It's like language learning through osmosis, kind of.
Makes perfect sense. You're absorbing the feel of the language, not just the rules.
Yeah.
Did she have other strategies besides media immersion?
Yeah, the second one was maybe a bit unconventional. She started talking to herself. in English.
Oh, really? Like narrating her day?
Yeah, pretty much. She said because she was new there, didn't know many people initially, it became this completely safe, zero-pressure way to practice forming sentences, trying out pronunciation, just getting comfortable with the sound of herself speaking English.
That's actually brilliant. It removes the entire layer of social anxiety, the fear of judgment. You're your own audience. You can stumble, correct yourself, try again, and nobody knows. It builds that foundational confidence.
Exactly. And the third piece for her, which she admitted was tough as a self-described perfectionist, was consciously giving herself permission to make mistakes. And crucially, to actually ask for help or correction when she didn't understand something or wasn't sure how to say it.
Embracing the errors, that's huge. Because that fear of mistakes is precisely what that article, The English Language Anxiety in Adult Learners, one, identified as a major block. That anxiety can literally prevent learners from participating in the very activities they need to improve.
Right. It becomes this vicious cycle. You're afraid to speak because you might make mistakes, but because you don't speak, you don't get the practice you need to stop making those mistakes.
Exactly. So Alomi consciously breaking that cycle by saying, okay, mistakes will happen and that's fine, was probably critical to her progress and her ability to actually connect with people.
Totally. And it echoes the advice we saw from English Lessons with Kate on YouTube. Her message was super direct. The only way to get fluent in speaking is, well, speaking, even if it's messy at first.
You have to open your mouth. There's no shortcut around actually producing the language.
And she explicitly said, you must be okay with making mistakes. They aren't signs of failure. They're just part of the learning curve.
Yeah, it's about reframing. Mistakes aren't failures, they're data points. They show you where the gaps are, what you need to focus on next. They're actually incredibly valuable if you can look at them that way.
Which is, I think, a really important message for you, the learner, listening right now. That fear of getting it wrong. It's common, it's understandable, but it can seriously hold you back. That anxiety article really drove home how it can stop you from even trying. Why do you think that anxiety hits adults particularly hard sometimes?
Well, I think part of it is that as adults, we're used to being competent in our native language. We communicate effectively, we express complex ideas, and then suddenly, in a new language, we feel like, well, like children again, stumbling over basic sentences. It can be a real knock to the ego.
Yeah, that makes sense. Feeling incompetent isn't fun.
Not at all. And there's that fear of negative evaluation, right? Worrying about what others will think, being judged for errors sounding unintelligent. That fear can lead to avoidance steering clear of situations where you might have to speak, which of course is counterproductive.
So what's the antidote then? How do learners push past that?
A big part of it is creating or finding a supportive learning environment. This came up in the anxiety article too. Whether it's a patient teacher, an understanding language partner, or even just being kinder to yourself in your own head. Normalizing mistakes is key.
Making it okay to not be perfect.
Exactly. That idea of a judgment-free zone, which the Pratika app emphasizes in its materials, is so crucial. You need that psychological safety to be willing to take risks, to try out new words and structures without being terrified of falling flat on your face.
Okay, so the why is clear. Active practice, especially speaking despite the fear, is non-negotiable for fluency. So let's shift to the how. How can you, the learner, actually set up your life, your home environment to make this easier and more natural? That English Learning at Home article had some really concrete tips.
Yeah, it did. And I liked how practical they were, things you can actually do, like labeling things around your house.
Labeling, like sticky notes.
Exactly. Putting little labels in English on your furniture, chair, table, lamp, or things in your kitchen refrigerator, microwave, kettle. It sounds almost childishly simple, but it creates this constant low-level visual exposure to everyday vocabulary and context.
I can see how that would reinforce things passively throughout the day. What else?
Another big one was consciously trying to think in English.
Think in English? How does that work? Like translating in your head?
Not necessarily translating from your native language, but more like narrating your own actions or thoughts directly in English, even if it's very simple stuff like, okay, I am walking to the kitchen now, I need to make coffee, or what should I have for lunch? Just getting your brain used to operating in English mode.
That sounds challenging but potentially really powerful, like exercising a muscle.
It is. It forces you to retrieve vocabulary and structure sentences, even if only internally. And the article also mentioned using technology strategically. We touched on Alomi changing her device settings.
Right. Phone, computer.
Yeah. Switching the interface language to English. It seems small, But think how many times a day you interact with your phone or computer. Every menu, every notification, every button becomes a mini English lesson. You learn words like settings, delete, send, save in a very functional context.
Okay, that's clever. You're embedding the learning into activities you already do constantly.
Precisely. But beyond these more solitary or passive methods, the article really underscored the importance of actual interaction, finding ways to have real conversations in English.
So talking to people.
Yes. Whether it's finding friends or family members who are also learning or willing to practice with you, or maybe more accessibly for many people, using online language exchange platforms.
Ah, yeah. Those seem really popular now. Did the article name any specific ones?
It did. It mentioned Tandem, HelloTalk, and Speaky as good options for connecting with native speakers or other learners worldwide. And honestly, the Reddit discussions we looked at, those platforms came up constantly. People sharing positive experiences finding language partners there.
What makes those platforms work well, do you think? Is it just finding someone to talk to?
I think it's more than that. It provides authentic communication. You're not just drilling phrases. You're actually getting to know someone, asking questions, sharing about your life, learning about theirs. There's real purpose behind the conversation.
And that purpose probably boosts motivation too, right? You want to understand them. You want them to understand you.
Absolutely. Plus, you get exposure to different accents, different ways of saying things, slang, colloquialisms, the real-world language that textbooks often miss.
That reminds me of another concept from the LearnLight article, the flipped classroom. Now, that sounds like something for schools, but how could a self-learner, someone studying alone, adapt that idea?
Yeah, traditionally it means students engage with lecture material, like videos, before class, and then use class time for discussion and problem solving. But for an independent learner, the principle still holds.
Okay, so how would that look?
It means you'd say, watch a YouTube video explaining a grammar point, or do a vocabulary lesson on an app before you schedule a chat with your language partner, or read an article on a topic before you try to discuss it.
Ah, I see. So you front load the learning input. What's the advantage of doing it that way?
The main benefit is that your practice time, your conversation with your partner, for example, becomes much more targeted and productive. You're not starting from zero. You already have some familiarity with the grammar or vocabulary, so you can focus on actively using it, asking specific questions, and getting feedback on your application of it. It makes the interaction less about basic instruction and more about actual practice and refinement.
That makes a lot of sense. You're priming your brain beforehand.
Exactly. And this loops back nicely to Olomi's strategy of immersing herself in media. All that listening and reading she was doing, that was essentially her flipped classroom preparation. It filled her head with language patterns and vocabulary, even passively, which then made her active speaking practice more fruitful when the opportunities arose.
And that How to Learn English Effectively video also really pushed this idea of surrounding yourself with English movies, shows, books. But they added an important caveat. Make sure it's at the right level for you. Why is that level matching so critical?
Because if the material is way too difficult, like trying to read Shakespeare when you're a beginner, it's just demoralizing. You won't understand enough to follow along, you'll get frustrated, and you'll likely give up.
Them there, yeah.
Right. But if you choose materials that are comprehensible but still slightly challenging, maybe you understand 80–90%. That's the sweet spot. You can follow the main ideas, enjoy the content, but you're also encountering new words and structures naturally within a context that helps you guess their meaning. It allows for learning without overwhelming frustration.
So finding that Goldilocks zone, not too hard, not too easy, but just right.
Precisely. That's key for maintaining motivation and actually absorbing the language effectively from the media you consume.
Okay, this is great. We've covered active practice, building the right environment. Now let's zoom in on a core component. Vocabulary. You simply can't speak or understand without words. That pro-literacy webinar, Developing Vocabulary, had some specific insights for adult learners, didn't it?
It did. It really emphasized that vocabulary learning isn't just about memorizing lists, especially for adults. It's an ongoing process that involves understanding words deeply. They talked about different types of vocabulary knowledge.
Types, like nouns and verbs.
Not just grammatical types, but more about our relationship with the words. They distinguish between receptive vocabulary, the words you recognize and understand when you read or hear them.
Okay, like words I know when I see them.
Exactly. And productive vocabulary, the words you can actually pull out of your brain and use correctly when you're speaking or writing.
Ah, right. And the goal is obviously to move words from that first group to the second one, to be able to use them.
Precisely. And the webinar stressed that this happens most effectively when you encounter and engage with words in meaningful contexts. Reading diverse materials, listening to authentic conversations, paying attention to how words are actually used, not just their dictionary definitions.
So context is king.
Absolutely. Seeing a word used in different sentences in different situations helps you grasp its nuances, its connotations, which words it typically pairs with its collocations. They also mentioned the value of using learner dictionaries or tools that provide example sentences and pronunciation guides.
Makes sense. But just encountering words isn't enough, right? We forget things so easily. Both the webinar and that How to Learn English Effectively video really hammered the need for repeated practice and active use. Why is actively using a word so much better for memory than just seeing it again?
It's about forging stronger connections in your brain. When you passively see or hear a word, it might activate a neural pathway weakly. But when you actively retrieve that word from memory and use it, maybe you say it in a conversation or write it in an email, or even just consciously use it in a thought, you are significantly strengthening that pathway.
Like carving the path deeper each time you walk it.
That's a great analogy. Each active use makes the word easier to access next time. It helps move it from fragile short-term memory into more robust long-term storage. Passive re-exposure helps, but active recall and use are far more potent for retention.
Okay, and this leads perfectly into a technique that seems almost universally recommended for vocabulary retention: spaced repetition. It came up in the video, and it was all over those Reddit discussions on language learning. For the learner listening, can you break down what spaced repetition actually is?
Sure. Spaced repetition systems, or SRS, are basically a smart way to schedule your review sessions. Instead of cramming a list of words over and over, you review new information at intervals that gradually get longer over time.
So you review it, then wait a bit longer, then review again, wait even longer.
Exactly. The core idea is to interrupt the forgetting curve. We naturally start forgetting new information almost immediately. SRS aims to prompt you to recall the information just before you're likely to forget it. Each time you successfully recall it, the system increases the interval until the next review, maybe from 1 day to 3 days, then a week, then a few weeks, and so on.
So it adapts based on how well you know the word. If you keep getting it right, you see it less often.
Precisely. If you struggle with a word, you'll see it more frequently. If you know it well, the system pushes it further into the future. It optimizes your review time, focusing your effort on the items you're weakest on, which is incredibly efficient compared to just randomly reviewing or cramming everything equally.
That sounds much smarter than my old method of just staring at lists until my eyes glazed over.
It really is. It leverages how our memory actually works. And the good news is, you don't have to manage the schedule yourself. There are fantastic digital tools that do it for you.
Right. You mentioned some are recommended.
Yes. The Reddit threads consistently brought up Anki and Memrise. These are apps and software specifically designed for spaced repetition. You input your vocabulary or use pre-made decks, and the algorithm handles the scheduling of reviews based on your feedback for each item.
So technology can really help automate this efficient learning strategy.
Definitely. And it's interesting, as you noted, how even broader language learning apps like Practica seem to incorporate elements of this principle. Their word of the day or quick phrases features, delivered in small, digestible chunks. The implication is that you encounter these repeatedly over time, aiding retention, even if it's not a strict SRS algorithm.
Yeah, it feels like that bite-sized, revisit-it-later approach taps into the same idea of combating forgetting without overwhelming the learner.
Exactly. It addresses a very common anxiety learners have. I learned so many words, but I just forget them. Spaced repetition, whether through dedicated software or integrated app features, offers a proven, structured way to build that vocabulary and actually make it stick long-term.
Okay, so we have the methods: active practice, immersion, smart vocabulary building. But what keeps the engine running? What fuels the whole process, especially when it gets tough? Motivation seems absolutely critical. That Role of Motivation in Adult Language Learning article explored this.
Yes, and it made it clear that motivation for adult learners isn't simple. It's complex. They talked about the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation.
Okay, intrinsic and extrinsic. What's the difference?
Intrinsic motivation comes from within. It's learning English because you genuinely enjoy the process, or you feel personal satisfaction from improving, or you have a deep interest in English language culture, literature, films.
So learning for the love of it, basically.
Pretty much. Extrinsic motivation, on the other hand, comes from external pressures or rewards. needing English for a specific job promotion, wanting to pass a standardized test, needing it to travel, trying to impress someone.
Okay, so learning because you have to or because there's an external goal attached. Does the article suggest one is better than the other?
Generally speaking, intrinsic motivation tends to be more sustainable in the long run. If you genuinely enjoy the learning process itself, you're more likely to stick with it through the inevitable plateaus and challenges. However, but extrinsic motivators can be incredibly powerful too, especially for getting started or pushing through difficult periods. That job requirement or that exam deadline can provide a very real sense of urgency. The ideal scenario is often a blend of both. The key is understanding what personally drives you and leveraging that.
And a really effective way to harness that motivation, whatever its source, seems to be setting clear goals. The Reddit discussions had some fascinating takes on this. People get quite creative with their goals.
They really do.
Yeah.
One approach that stood out for its sheer commitment was users who actually booked and paid for an official language exam, like TOEFL or IELTS, months in advance.
Wow, putting your money where your mouth is?
Exactly. The financial commitment, plus having that fixed, non-negotiable deadline on the calendar, acted as a powerful forcing function. As one user bluntly put it, the fear of wasting that exam fee was a huge motivator to study consistently.
That's intense, but probably very effective for some personalities. Were there other, maybe less high-stakes goal examples?
Oh, absolutely. Lots of people focused on process goals rather than just outcome goals. Things like listen to 3 English podcasts this week, or complete 5 lessons on my language app, or have at least one 30-minute conversation with my language partner.
So focusing on the actions, the habits that lead to improvement.
Precisely. These smaller, measurable, achievable goals provide regular feelings of accomplishment and build momentum. It aligns with that SMART goal framework, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Breaking down the massive goal of learn English into these manageable chunks makes it feel less daunting and keeps motivation higher.
Yeah, that sense of progress, even small wins, seems vital. Which loops us back again to anxiety. Because even if you're motivated and have clear goals, that fear we talked about can still derail you. The IUBAT review article and Practica's judgment-free zone concept really highlight this emotional side.
Absolutely. You can have the best methods and the strongest reasons to learn, but if anxiety constantly gets in the way of you actually practicing, especially speaking, progress stalls.
So for the learner listening, what are some practical ways to manage that performance anxiety when trying to speak English?
A huge part is cultivating that safe space we mentioned. Find a tutor or a language partner who is explicitly patient and encouraging, someone you feel comfortable making mistakes with. Or, if you're learning solo, work on your internal self-talk. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge that mistakes are not just inevitable, they're necessary for learning.
Shifting that internal narrative from, oh no, I messed up, to, okay, interesting, why did I say it like that? What's the right way?
Exactly. Reframing mistakes as learning opportunities, just like that master English as a second language with confidence video advised. Seeing them as feedback, not failure. And apps like Practica try to facilitate this by design, right?
Yeah, how does their approach specifically tackle the anxiety?
Well, by offering practice through short, maybe gamified lessons and, crucially, role-playing scenarios with an AI tutor in a virtual setting. The idea is to lower the stakes significantly. You're practicing conversation, but without the immediate pressure and potential judgment of a live, face-to-face interaction with a real person.
So it's like a stepping stone. You build confidence talking to the AI before you venture out into the real world?
That seems to be the goal. It allows learners to experiment, to get comfortable forming sentences, responding to prompts, and building fluency in a controlled, low-pressure environment. It's designed to gradually build confidence before tackling higher-stakes interactions.
Okay, this is really comprehensive. We've got the why, active practice, the how, immersion, vocab goals, and the mindset, managing anxiety. Now let's consider the learning process itself. That English fluency video talked about different modes of learning, active versus passive, or focused versus diffuse. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. It's based on neuroscience concepts, actually.
Yeah.
Focus mode is when you're intensely concentrating on learning something specific. You're eliminating distractions, deliberately working through grammar exercises, memorizing vocabulary, practicing pronunciation drills. It's effortful, directed attention.
Okay, that's the hard work part. What's diffuse mode?
Diffuse mode is more relaxed, background processing. It happens when your mind is wandering, maybe you're taking a shower, going for a walk, listening to music, or even sleeping. Your brain is still working on the problems or information you were focused on earlier, but in a less direct, more associative way. It's where insights often happen, connecting ideas in new ways.
Interesting. So like letting things percolate?
Exactly. Both modes are crucial for deep learning. You need the focused effort to load the information in, but you also need the diffuse mode to help consolidate it, make connections, and gain understanding. The video host, being at an advanced level, mentioned relying more on passive or diffuse learning now. What does that imply for beginners or intermediate learners?
That's a key distinction. While passive exposure, like listening to podcasts or watching TV, is always beneficial for reinforcing language and catching nuances, learners who are still building their foundation absolutely need significant time in focused, active learning mode.
Why is that? Can't you just learn passively through immersion?
You can absorb a lot, but you need that focused study to really nail down the fundamentals of the core grammar rules, essential vocabulary, pronunciation basics. Without that solid structure built through active effort, passive learning might just wash over you without sticking effectively. You need the framework first before the passive input can truly refine and expand it. Make sense? Build the house before you decorate it.
Good analogy. So for most learners, it's about finding a healthy balance between focused study sessions and more relaxed, diffuse exposure and practice.
Okay. And that same English fluency video introduced another really interesting idea: curveballs. What do they mean by curveballs in language learning?
Curveballs are essentially the unexpected challenges that life throws at you when you're trying to use the language. Things that aren't in the textbook, things you didn't specifically practice for.
Like what? Give me an example.
It could be encountering someone with a really strong regional accent you've never heard before and struggling to understand them. Or finding yourself in a conversation where the topic suddenly shifts to something highly technical or specialized and you realize you don't have a vocabulary. Or maybe encountering a complex grammatical structure used in a way you haven't seen.
Right. Those moments where you feel completely lost or unprepared. They sound unpleasant. How can they possibly be beneficial?
Well, they're definitely uncomfortable in the moment. But the argument is that these unexpected challenges are actually powerful learning opportunities. They force you out of your comfort zone, out of your practiced routines.
How so?
When you hit that curveball, the unfamiliar accent, the difficult topic you have to adapt, you have to strain your listening skills, maybe ask clarifying questions, try to piece together meaning from context, or actively search for the vocabulary you need. It makes your engagement with the language much more dynamic and ultimately more resilient.
So it's like stress testing your skills.
In a way, yes. It reveals the gaps in your knowledge or skills in a very real-world context. That Reddit user example the video mentioned, being in a casual chat that suddenly turned scientific, that forced them to stretch their vocabulary and adapt on the fly. Overcoming those challenges builds flexibility and confidence.
So instead of dreading those awkward moments, we should maybe try to see them as growth opportunities.
Exactly. They show you where you need to improve and push you to develop the adaptability that's essential for true fluency in unpredictable real-world communication. They make your learning more robust.
Okay, wow, we've covered a huge amount of ground here. Let's try to crystallize the key takeaways for the learner listening in. If you had to boil it down, what are the absolute must-dos?
Right. Quick summary. 1. Prioritize active practice, especially speaking right from the start. Don't wait until you feel ready. 2. Create that immersive, English-friendly environment. Label things, think in English, change device settings, find conversation partners. 3. Be smart about vocabulary. Use spaced repetition tools like Anki or Memrise, focus on context, and actively use new words.
Okay, keep going.
4. Find your motivation, intrinsic or extrinsic, and set clear, achievable, SMART goals to keep you moving forward. 5. This is huge. Embrace mistakes. See them as essential feedback, not failures. Create or find a judgment-free zone to practice in. 6. Balance your learning. You need both focused, active study and relaxed, passive exposure, diffuse mode.
And the last one.
And 7. Welcome the curveballs. Those unexpected challenges, the difficult accents, the unfamiliar topics, they're not setbacks. They're opportunities to build real-world adaptability and resilience.
That's a fantastic summary. Practical, actionable advice drawn from all those different sources. So, here's our final thought, our challenge for you, the learner. Listening to all this, what is one small thing you can do differently starting today? Just one actionable step based on this deep dive that will nudge your English learning forward. Think about it, and then, more importantly, do it.
Yeah, pick one thing. Maybe it's downloading Tandem. Maybe it's labeling your coffee machine. Maybe it's deciding to talk to yourself in English during your commute tomorrow. Just one small action.
Brilliant. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thank you so much for sticking with us and exploring these strategies. We really hope you found it valuable.
It was a pleasure digging into this.
Yeah.
Lots of great insights.